Andy Bacon,
Here.
Olin Gambrell,
Here.
Tom Silveria,
Here.
Eric Curtin,
Here.
James Miller,
Here.
Chris Souza,
Here.
David Hontoon, absent, Tom Heaney, here.
Next order of business is you've got a copy of the minutes from the August 25th meeting. I need a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion made by Eric Curtin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second made by Tom Silvera. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next order of business, we'll go through the petitions. Mr. Heaney, just read the address and the name of the petitioner. And I've told that the attorneys or the petitioners will be on Zoom to tell us the deposition of the cases.
Petition of James L. Paradise, owner, 170 Aquidneck Avenue.
It'd be Mr. Galvin.
Mr. Galvin.
Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding that this petition, he's requested it be continued to the next meeting, which is October 27th.
Okay. I'm going to put it over to 1027.
Okay, and that applies also to that was for a variance, and there's also a petition for a special use permit.
Is that in plan review right now?
Yes.
Okay. Next petition.
Newport National Real Estate Limited Liability Company, 4425 Mitchell's Lane.
That'll be Mr. Silva.
Mr. Silva.
Mr. Silva. It's my understanding from the conversation with Mr. Silva that this will be held over until the October 27th meeting.
Very good. We'll continue that.
Petition of Stephen Feria and Barbara Walton Feria, their attorney Robert M. Silva, 595 Aquidneck Ave and 39 Newman Road.
Mr. Silva is on. Mr. Silva? He is on. I'm asking you to unmute.
Well, can I speak to
The host
them?
is not allowing participant to.
Good evening, Mr. Silva.
Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not a technological expert here, and quite frankly, the matter just before, could I ask you what happened to it, Newport National? It was continued at my request?
It was continued at your request to 10/27/2020.
10/27/2020. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Likewise, I do represent Stephen Feria. It's a petition for a special use permit. It's to correct a situation where he's been in business for years with his father's distributorship off of Aquidneck Avenue. And we wanted to go through the steps of getting a special use permit because he's a non-conforming use in a residential zone. I wanted to go forward tonight, and I'll have Nate Godfrey present with a written analysis as well as his testimony. But I noticed late in the afternoon that the agenda had been published on the website for the Secretary of State and elsewhere, and it had this matter under the continued cases. And I'm concerned that a member of the public might be interested in this case and saw that it was being continued and wouldn't participate. And I don't want that to be an ongoing issue. So with a reluctance, I would ask that this be put over to the 27th of October, but also ask that the next agenda not have it as a continued case, but have it as a case to be heard.
Very good, Mr. Silva. We'll continue it and we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Next case.
Next petition is John R. Gullison and Bonnie F. Zimble by their attorney Jeremiah C. Lynch III, 59 Aquidneck Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jay Lynch on behalf of Mr. Gullis and Ms. Zimble. My client is requesting that we wait until we get some in-person hearings again before we proceed with this. He'd rather not do a Zoom meeting. So we're still going to need to go to the planning board to get our approval there. And I'm going to make the same request of Mr. Wolanski that we wait until we have in-person hearings again to proceed.
Mr. Lynch, this has been on our docket for 3 years. When do you think we'll see the case?
Well, we've amended our, I spoke to Mr. Kane. I'm going to be filing the amended application with him. I told him by Friday. We're removing almost all of the dimensional relief that we're seeking. So it's going to be a simple special use permit. We just have to go in front of the planning board. I know we finally got our state approvals probably 4 or 5 months ago. Maybe it was pre-COVID. I've lost track of time. So pre-COVID. So we just have to get in front of the planning board and then get an advisory opinion. We're back in front of you. But as I mentioned, my client would rather proceed with an in-person hearing rather than these Zoom meetings.
I can't guarantee when we'll go to live meetings, Mr. Lynch, though.
Well, if that's the case, if we want to continue it to the November calendar,
Okay,
I'll speak with Mr. Wolanski and see if we can get on the planning board's October or November agenda.
Okay, I'll put it down for 11/24,
Great, thank you very much.
and that's for both petitions.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch.
Petition of Sens Corporation, GD Middletown, West Main Road, 1 Limited Liability Company, 0 West Main Road. And there's also, that's a variance and a special use.
We're waiting for advisory opinion from development.
Okay. And that's Mr. Lynch's case as well, I see.
Yeah, I believe so. Mr. Lynch?
Well, Celeste, we'll continue it to 10/27.
Petition of Thomas and Ella Auchincloss by their attorney David P. Martland Esquire, special use permit, 233 Third Beach Road.
Is Mr. Martland on the line?
Good evening. Yes, I was just able to connect in. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Unfortunately, we are not able to proceed this evening. We had hoped to be able to move this petition forward tonight. However, the planning board had to cancel its last meeting because of a technical issue with Zoom. And therefore, we weren't allowed to present this month at the planning board. We intend to go forward in October at the planning board and then would be able to be back before this board at the October hearing.
Okay, so we'll continue to 10/27. And good luck with the planning board.
Thank you.
Petition of John and Pamela Wallace by their attorney Chappelle and Chappelle, special use permit, 819 Aquidneck Avenue.
Mr. Chappelle, are you on the line?
Hello, everyone. Court Chappelle on behalf of the petitioners. This is a relatively straightforward petition for a special use permit for a mixed use on 819 Aquidneck Avenue. It's my understanding that it requires this board to send it for technical review to the planning board and a advisory opinion. We've submitted all that documentation on Friday, but I think you need to formally send it there. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chappelle. Celeste, do we need, Mr. Regan, do we need a vote for that or just send it over?
We just refer it, if it hasn't been referred already, so, and I would just recommend just continue this to the next meeting.
Yeah, we're going to refer it to the planning board or the technical review committee, and we're going to continue it to 10/27/2020.
Thank you.
Petition of Glenn P. Brogan for a variance, 75 Tuckerman Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, this particular petition needs to be re-advertised and all of the abutters re-notified of the square footage of the single family. We can hold it.
Okay, we're going to continue this to 10/27/2020 to allow for it to be re-advertised. And that concludes all of our continuances. The next point on the agenda is the Planning Board of Appeals. Mr. Regan, I don't have to convene the Board of Appeals to set the date, do I?
No, since this is just on today for control, and so I believe Mr. Martland and Mr. Jackson, and I believe either Ms. Desitel or someone from Marissa Desitel's office should be on the line to just talk about trying to set a date for a special meeting on this.
Mr. Martland, are you there? Is Ms. Desitel there?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, David Martland.
Is Russ Jackson on the line?
Is Russ Jackson on the line?
I'm present, Mr. Chairman.
We need to set a date that's mutually good for all of us. We've got the November 24th meeting. November's also got a couple of holidays in it. So what are you guys thinking?
Mr. Chairman, I had suggested a number of dates to Mr. Regan and Mr. Jackson. I'm just pulling up an email here. I suggested any of the following dates: November 10, November 12, November 16, November 17, or November 18.
Mr. Jackson, do any of those dates work for you?
I would be fine, Mr. Chairman, with the 10th, the 12th, the 17th, or the 18th.
Is there anyone here on the board that has an opinion?
10 or 12 is better for me.
10 or 12?
What days of the week are those?
Monday, Tuesday?
Those, they're the Tuesday
Tuesday,
and Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Oh, no.
Or excuse me, Tuesday and Thursday.
12th is Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday.
No.
No.
Yeah,
So it'd be the
it'd be
12th would be the
Thursday.
Thursday, and then what was the other date?
10.
Is
So that'd be
it
a
Tuesday?
Tuesday or Thursday? Oh, that's okay with me.
So you said 12th, Mr.
10.
10th works for you? How does the 10th work, Mr. Jackson and Mr. Martland?
That's fine with me.
Mr. Regan?
That works with,
Works fine with me, and I had an email from Marissa Desitel's office earlier today that all of those dates were available for her as well.
So I'm going to put that down for the 10th, which is Tuesday, the 10th of November,
At what time, Mr. Chairman?
6 o'clock. Does that work with everyone?
Can't bang it out during the day. can we?
I can come as early as 5. I mean, this question. Miss Celeste, do you have a problem if we did it at 5?
No.
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Martland, do you have a problem if we convene at 5?
That's fine with me.
that's fine with me as well.
So we're going to put it down for Tuesday, the 10th at 5 PM. 10th of November.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next order of business is summary hearings. Summary hearings are those hearings that require less than 25% of a variance. You can read the full hearing, Mr. Keen, Mr. Heaney.
Petition of Beatrice B. Barzowski Trust for a variance from section 603 and 701 to allow the construction of a 2,698 square foot single family dwelling with a front yard setback of 20 feet where 40 feet is required. Said real estate is located at 0 Indian Terrace and further identified as Lot 43A on Tax Assessor's Plat 129.
Mr. Bazarski, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. And my son is, I think he's muted. If you could unmute him because he would like to speak as well.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the rest of the board. Jason Bazarski is on the line as well.
There are several letters in the file with concern. Do you want to, we can either go forward as a full hearing.
So at this point, we'd like to request a continuance until the October 27th meeting.
Okay, very good. We'll continue this to October 27th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bazarski.
Petition of Carrie Siebert, owner, for a variance from sections 603, 701, and 803G to allow the construction of a second floor dormer with a front yard setback of 19.8 feet where 25 feet is required. Said real estate is located at 2 Balsam Avenue and further identified as Lot 78 on Tax Assessor's Plat 108.
Is there anyone on the phone that wishes to speak against this petition?
I have her here, I've asked her to come. She might be on.
Ms. Siebert, how are you this evening?
Fine, thank you.
I'm going to check to see if there's anyone that's going to speak against it. If there's not, we can just put this up for a vote as a summary judgment.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to speak against or for the petition? Can you raise your right hand, please? Are you, let me ask first, are you going to speak against the petition, ma'am? Sandra?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, seeing no one's going to speak against it, we're going to vote on this as a summary petition. I need a motion to accept the summary petition.
I'll make a motion to agree.
Motion made by Tom Silvera,
I'll second.
second by Eric Curtin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Siebert. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
That concludes our summary hearings. We're going to go into our full hearings.
Petition of Martini Holdings Limited Liability Company and Flava and Charles Mastronelli applicants for a special use permit from sections 602, 803A, and 902 to allow the expansion of the legal non-conforming single-family residential use and create a mixed use by the addition of a landscaping business. Said real estate is located at 43 Vanasek Ave and further identified as Lot 68 on Tax Assessor's Plat 106.
Mr. Lynch, I understand you're representing the client?
I am, Mr. Chairman. Jay Lynch on behalf of the applicant. I have two witnesses this evening. I have Mrs. Mastronelli, and I also have Jim Hool, who will be providing expert testimony to the application. The petition before you involves a lot in a general business district, which mixed uses are permitted by special use permit. There is an existing single-family structure on the dwelling with a detached garage. So right now, that use is a non-conforming use under the ordinance. The property is located at the western end of Vanasek Avenue. It's abutted to the west by the Vanasek Nursery property, and then it's abutted to the north by the Green Office Complex. The applicant intends to occupy the single-family dwelling on the site, the applicant's both do, as their principal residence, and they plan on operating their landscaping business from the rear of the lot. I have Mrs. Mastronelli. If you want to swear her in, I'll just ask her several questions.
Okay, Mrs. Mastronelli, can you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Do you swear the testimony this evening will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
State your name and address for the record.
Flavia Mastronelli, currently at 43 Mixter Street in Middletown, Rhode Island.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mrs. Mastronelli, you and your husband intend to purchase this property and reside in the single-family dwelling. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you also plan to operate your family landscaping business from the property as well, correct? And your landscaping business, that's been in operation since 2008,
Yes, that's
correct?
correct.
Okay. And presently, you have 6 employees in the business. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
And most of your employees will use the company vehicles to travel to and from the business address, correct?
Yes,
Okay. So during the evening, most of the vehicles are going to be off-site at the employees' homes?
yes,
You have no intention of storing any landscaping materials on the site?
no,
And you're not going to have any significant lighting on the property, correct?
there's no need for that.
You're just going to have the standard residential lighting with motion detectors on the garage in-house?
That's
Now, at some point, you're probably going to be working on some of the landscaping equipment. They'll be repaired on the property. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
Okay. And you intend to perform all of the repair services inside the existing garage?
That's true. Yeah.
Now, you've spoken with your neighbors concerning this application, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
And several neighbors have submitted letters of support for your application. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you have reached an agreement with your neighbor to the east, Mr. Erickson, concerning improvements that you're going to make to the property if this board grants you the relief that you're looking for, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And you're willing to make, well, let me go over them first. You have agreed to widen the existing driveway, which serves your house, your property and the Erickson property by approximately 6 feet.
Yes,
Okay. And you've also agreed with Mr. Erickson that you will plant a row of arborvitae or evergreens, approximately 60 feet in length and 5 to 6 feet high along the driveway by the garage.
yes,
And are you willing to make those stipulations conditions of any approval that this board may grant you this evening?
yes, sir.
I don't have any further questions for the applicant, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Does anyone in on the board have any questions for the applicant?
I believe the attorney said there was going to be someone else speaking.
Right, Mr. Hull is going to be speaking. Is that
I am
correct?
Mr. Hool.
Mr. Hool?
Yes.
I'm here.
Mr. Hool, are you there?
Yes,
Can you please raise your right hand? You swear the
I am.
testimony this evening will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
James A. Houle, Houle, 198 Union Street, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Mr. Hool, you've appeared before this board on numerous occasions in the capacity as an expert witness, so we will accept you tonight in that capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hool, did I ask you to review the application in the subject property to provide an expert opinion to the board
You
this
did.
evening?
You
Okay.
did.
Can you express to the board your observations and opinions concerning this request for a special use permit?
Sure. Of course, as Mr. Lynch has already told you, the petitioners would like to acquire the property that's for sale currently on 43 Vanasek. The property's improved with a single-family detached house, but it also has a 550 square foot garage on the property. And the garage is a little bit taller than your typical residential garage and would serve very well for the type of use that the petitioners are looking for on the site. I went down after Mr. Lynch asked me to take a look at the petition. I reviewed the petition. I went down to the site. I reviewed the applicable zoning code and the comprehensive plan as it applied to the property. And I believe that it's very much in conformance with the requirements of the code. They're looking for relief. Number 602, the schedule of district regulations. This is a GB zone. It's an A GB zone. It has a single family residential use, actually a non-conforming use on the site. So the idea of having a business there actually makes it more in conformance with the way the legislative intent of the GB zone is written, which talks about having a mix of uses, and it talks about reusing property to preserve open space and to limit commercial sprawl. So it really fits very well within the requirements or what is the legislative intent of the GB zone. They're also looking, because of this, because of adding the commercial use to the property, they're looking, they need a special use permit, which is within 803, the extension or alteration of a legal non-conforming use, as long as it has an other permitted use, which is the landscaping business, as far as I can read within the definition of the GB is an other permitted use. So we're looking primarily at the criteria of the five criteria of special use permit as defined in 902. And I did look at each of these. The first one is it will not result in significant diminution of property values in the surrounding area. I couldn't find any factors that would impact the neighboring values. There's not going to be any significant signage on the site. There's no expansion of exterior lighting. There's not going to be any storage of the vehicles that are owned by the landscaping company. As Mr. Lynch has already elicited in the questions, that they are brought home by the workers and driven to the job site rather than back to this property. There's not going to be any material storage. One of the questions that I asked right away is whether they intended to store materials, which they are not going to. Any work to equipment they're planning to do inside the existing garage. There's no planned expansion of the building. So I don't see it as having any factors that are going to create a diminution of property value. It will not, the second question dovetails right into this, which is it will not create a nuisance in the neighborhood. All the same reasons, but additionally, we know that the property all around Vanasek Avenue to the west is nursery property. And this is really very harmonious. This is the same type of use. The equipment is very similar to that would be used in the nursery. And in fact, Vanasek Avenue leads directly into the nursery property. So it's very likely that that road is used occasionally for the nursery. Compatible with the comp plan, this is a GB zone. The legislative arm of the comp plan, the zoning code, already has it as a GB neighborhood. The new use is very harmonious with the zoning, so I see it compatible with the comp plan. Number 4 is that the granting of the special use will not be detrimental or injure the appropriate use of property in the surrounding area. I don't see that at all. It's very much in harmony. This is, again, as I said, that this is an area in which it has there's a number of commercial uses all around it. There's commercial use to the north. There's commercial use across the street and to the south, and of course to the west in the nursery land. And the granting of the special use permit will not result in hazardous conditions. I don't find any conditions that will be hazardous. They seem to have covered all of the points that I would have thought might create a problem with the nursery. They're not going to be really a very intense use of the property. They're simply going to be parking a couple of the vehicles there. And in fact, if you look at the house actually lends itself beautifully to having a home business because there's a room in the back of the house that is almost detached from the house. It would be perfect for an office. So I think that it'd be a very compatible use, and I think it satisfies all the requirements of the special use permit.
Thank you, Mr. Hool. Any questions for Mr. Hool from the board? Seeing no questions, and Mr. Heaney has a
Yeah,
question.
just for point of orientation, here's Tom Heaney. You said that you gave us some cardinal directions for orientation, but there's no annotation on the sketch that we have. So just for orientation, Vanasek Avenue goes east-west. Is that correct?
That is
I believe
correct.
that, right, okay.
Okay, and then the property, there was one property line that you were talking about that you were going to negotiate something with a neighbor, and you mentioned east, but that kind of abuts the road. So could you point out where this negotiation was done and what we're doing for the neighbor?
Yeah, it's the boundary that runs from Vanasek Road and heads north up to the office park. So it's the property, that property would be located on the east of this subject property.
Okay,
And so the relief is going to be behind the garage, or it's going to be on the driveway side?
Well, that's where the hedges are going to be planted on the driveway side
Okay,
to the driveway. And then the actual business is going to be located behind the house and to the, I guess it'd be to the west of the garage.
right, I understand that. So we're going to put that in the motion just for your
Great, thank you.
recommendation. Any other questions for the petitioner or the experts? Seeing none, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone on the Zoom call that would like to speak either for or against the petition? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion that includes the relief that they're providing to the neighbor to the east?
Motion to approve the application with the condition that they put a 60-foot linear foot wall of emerald green arborvitae, 5 to 6 feet tall, on the bordering property at 39 Vanasek.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Council Vera, second, discussion?
I'm going to vote in favor, considering they worked it out with the neighbor ahead of the time, and considering the arborvitae's are going to go in, it seems to me to be the least relief necessary.
Yeah, I'm also going to support this. My concern was the issue of creating a nuisance, and since they were able to work well with their future neighbors and work that out, I think they've addressed any concern I might have there. And as far as the other points made by Mr. Hool, I agree that these will be improvements to the current situation that's there, so I'm going to support this.
Yeah, I too am going to support it for all the same reasons. I appreciate the fact when a petitioner makes the effort to go out and talk with their neighbors ahead of coming to zoning for relief. And the relief that they're asking is a special use permit, which on the face of it, it's not going to be detrimental to the neighborhood. It's not going to, as Mr. Hool said, it's not going to result in diminution to the property values. So I'm going to support it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I assume Mr. Regan's going to request that I prepare the decision.
Absolutely, Mr. Lynch.
I'll be happy to.
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Lynch.
Petition of Lisa Singragrana and Paul Diaz for a special use permit from Article 1600 to allow an accessory family dwelling. Said real estate is located at 100 Bailey Avenue and further identified as Lot 934 on Tax Assessor's Plat 125.
Ms. Sequingrano, I'm sorry.
Cinquagrana, yes, I'm here.
Okay. And is Paulo here as well?
No, he's not.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I said yes. I don't know if you heard me.
Oh, okay. Very good. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your petition?
Sure. We are actually a divorced couple, so we were looking for a home where we could each, have a private section of the home, but still be able to raise our children together. So we sold our family home to Helena Court in Middletown, and we found 100 Bailey, and it has an odd layout where it's pretty much already kind of like two separate houses that are connected in the center. So when we saw it, we thought it, as odd as it was, that it would work perfectly for our situation. So one parent could live in the front part of the home and one could live in the back, and we're still able to have our children with us, 100% of the time. The only issue is that the apartment section in the back over the garage has everything but a small kitchen. So to make it perfect, we just wanted to add a small kind of galley kitchen in that part of the home so that we would each have a full, house.
And you understand that this will be registered with the town and it will only be for exclusive family use?
Yes,
And that
that's fine.
when and if you decide it's not going to be family use, then the use goes away. You understand that, correct?
Say yes again. I don't know if I'm coming through.
Yeah, I think we're not hearing you. So, but you understand that it's only a use for you and your family. And once it's-
Exactly, yes. Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, let me open it up and see if we have anyone from the audience that would like to either speak for or against it. Is there anyone on the Zoom call that would like to either speak for or against the petition at 100 Bailey Avenue? Seeing nobody raising their hand, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to accept the petition as presented?
I'll make the motion to grant.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Council Vera first, Eric Curtin second. Discussion?
I'm going to vote in favor. I believe
the petitioner does realize it is for family use only, and so I'm going to support it. Any other discussion?
I'm also going to support it. This is a very unique situation, as we heard. And I think as far as the actual footprint of the building and the proposal to put a galley kitchen where they do have open space right now, it's very, very good use of the building and obviously in keeping with the comprehensive plan.
Yes, I too am going to support it. I believe strongly in the accessory family dwelling, part of our zoning code, and I applaud them for making sacrifices to support their children. So if there's no other discussion, can I have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Petition of Halamar Incorporated and Island Canine Academy Limited Liability Company by their attorney, David P. Martland Esquire, for a special use permit from section 602 to allow an indoor dog training business with an indoor boarding of up to 5 dogs. Said real estate is located at 1015 Aquinic Avenue, Unit 1A, and further identified as Lot 2001 on Tax Assessor's Plat 113.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. David Martland on behalf of Island Canine Academy, LLC, and Halamar, Inc. This evening, I have with me via Zoom, Julia Cardy, who is the principal of the Island Canine Academy. The property that this involves is located at 1015 Aquidneck Avenue, which is across the street from where JAM and A1 Roofing have operations. It's a mixed-use building. There's Chelsea's restaurant that's in the front, I guess, left-hand side. This proposed use would be in the front right-hand side of the building. That's Unit 1A. Behind the building, there are other units that are essentially all tradesmen type of units. And we're here this evening to seek a special use permit because this kind of falls under the classification of kennel because of the boarding of the animals, of the dogs. What Julia is proposing to do is to have a dog training business. So she would take in dogs, provide training to them. Associated with that would be the boarding of the dogs overnight. All of it would be indoor, and there would not be any outdoor training of the animals on this site, both because of the activity on the site and it also abuts a residential use. I have Julia with me this evening. If I could ask that she be provided access via Zoom. I'm not sure if she's on.
Julia, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear
Can
me?
you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Julia Cardy, 106 K Street, Newport.
Thank you. Julia, could you please explain to the board your background in dog training?
Sure. Yeah, I've been training dogs for over 20 years. I worked 10 years under someone else, and I've owned my own business for close to 12 years. I worked on Aquidneck Avenue prior to moving to Charlotte, North Carolina 4 years ago. before I left, it was not necessary to obtain a kennel license with dogs boarding if they were not being charged extra for boarding. So the dogs that I train sometimes will stay with me, but I'm not boarding just general boarding clients. So the dogs who train are not being charged an additional fee. I've ran the same business in Charlotte, North Carolina, no problem for 4 years, never had a single complaint or problem. And so it's my intention to come back and do the same thing here.
And how many dogs do you train at any one time?
The most that I would take would be 5. It's a very small operation. And the clients are not usually involved in that training unless I'm doing a private lesson for a puppy. So I do all of the training and then teach the client outside of the business.
And your normal hours of operation?
7 a.m. until 7 p.m.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I don't really have any further questions for Julia.
Let me see if anyone on the board has any questions. Does anyone on the board have any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, have you discussed your business opening up with your neighbors, and do you have any idea how they feel about it?
I have not. I did get a note from the owners of Chelsea's saying that they were excited to have me come. Chelsea's is the restaurant that's in the same building there.
Yes, I'm familiar with that, and that was one of my concerns is because of the dogs being in there, the possibility of barking while they're in there. So if they're in favor of it, that addresses my concern.
Yeah, and you know, I have plenty of people who could tell you that the dogs that stay with me, first of all, being that I'm opening my business again on the island, in Charlotte, it's a whole nother story. All of the dogs came and stayed overnight for training. Here, because it's an island, much smaller, most people will bring their dogs, drop them in the morning and pick them up in the evening. And as far as barking dogs, doesn't happen. Very, very rarely.
Could you just describe a scenario where a pet would stay the night and what type of cage or enclosure they'll be in, when they'll be fed? Would there be multiples in there at the same time? And back to Mr. Heaney's question, how close is the adjacent residential neighbor?
Sure. So the dogs that come and stay overnight are fed usually at 7 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. If dogs are staying over, they will all be in their own individual commercial style dog kennels. They're very, very heavy duty so that the dogs can't break out or have any trouble with that. They will also be monitored. And my intention is if I get up to as many as 5 dogs, someone will stay overnight.
And there's a house directly next door?
It's another business.
But he said there was an adjacent
Behind.
residential
It
neighborhood.
abuts behind.
Okay, so it's nowhere close.
It's nowhere
No
close.
noise impact, any people trying to get a good night's sleep?
No.
Okay.
So just for clarification, there is a residence on Ellen Road that is to the rear. It is approximately 230 feet away from where the business would be occupying the building.
Thank you.
And my math tells me the space is what, around 1,400 square feet?
Let's see. Yeah, I think that looks correct, Mr. Curtin.
And so in this space, you're going to have 5 facilities for the dogs to sleep overnight and a training area, an office area, a bathroom for a person,
There's also a lower level. in,
Okay. So
Space where I believe the overnight boarding would occur.
is that accurate? I mean,
Yes, that is accurate. There's more than enough room there. I have been for 4 years working out of my garage, which was a 20 by 20 maybe. So there's more than enough room there. Like I said, the dogs are individually crated, so it's more of a crate system than it is a freestanding kennel. So the dogs are individualized. The crates will sit flush against a wall. It doesn't take up much space at all. More than enough room for me to do the training I need to do indoor. And then as far as any outdoor training I would need to do, I would take the dogs off of location.
and where are they going to go to the bathroom?
In the back of the building attached to the area that I'm renting is a deck. And that deck is more than enough room to let dogs out individually. And I have a artificial grass that I plan to put there where the dogs can go out, relieve themselves, and come back in.
And Mr. Martland, that the prior use there was a dog grooming facility, wasn't it?
I think that was one of the prior uses for that property.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, I'm going to open it up to the public. Is there anyone on the Zoom call that would like to speak either for or against the petition at 1015 Aquidneck Avenue? Seeing that no one has raised their hand, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Chris Souza, second by Tom Silvera. Discussion?
Yeah, the owner has a business plan. She has a way to keep the dogs overnight. It seems, I'm an animal lover. I'm a dog lover. So I just didn't want to see any type of situation where there might be a nuisance type situation to anyone in the neighborhood. And I'm sure there's a way to remedy that if it happens down the line. So for now, I wish her the best and might be a client.
My conflict generally was just due to the size of this space. I'm also a dog lover, so I mean, let me get that out there. And where the dogs could go outside. With that said, considering your experience and the fact that the neighbors are speaking in favor of what you said, is that they're in favor of having you there, then I'm going to vote in favor.
Yeah, I too am going to support it. I had the same concern as Mr. Curtin. I visited the site and I was amazed at how much they've opened up that first floor by changing, just the windows and opening up the interior space. I wasn't aware that they had the basement, so knowing that, I'm pretty comfortable that they have enough space. So I too am going to vote in support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Petition of the Laura Melissa Realty Trust and Plant City Providence Limited Liability Company by their attorney, David P. Martland Esquire, for a special use permit from section 602 to allow a drive-through window for use in the connection with a restaurant. Said real estate is located at 619 West Main Road and further identified as Lot 13 on Tax Assessor's Plat 107 Southeast.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, David Martland, representing the applicant, Plant City Providence LLC, and the owner, the Laura Melissa Realty Trust. This application involves the reuse of property at 619 West Main Road, designated as 107 Southeast Lot 13. And to all of us, it is what was formerly the Papagenos. Papagenos closed the restaurant there. I don't, must have been a year and a half to 2 years ago. The property is sort of not been utilized since then. Plant City is interested in coming down to the area here. They offer a menu of all plant-based foods, and they've located this facility. And what they'd like to do is try a concept for Plant City that is more oriented on a to-go basis. So both takeout as well as utilizing the drive-through window, in particular because of a lot of concerns now surrounding COVID and how our eating habits have changed, where people are, don't necessarily want to be out going into restaurants. They do want to, while they still may want to enjoy the food, they want to make sure they've got the ability to have takeout, curbside pickup, takeout windows, and so that's what Kim Anderson, who's the principal of Plant City, would like to do with this building, is to have sort of a scaled down version of her restaurant in Providence. I'm not sure if anyone on the board's familiar with it, but she would like to do sort of a scaled down version, being able to offer foods from the Plant City burgers, the Plant City chicken sandwiches, fries, the mac and cheese, a variety of salads, and different types of bowls. And would like to bring that here to this location, and would like to have a drive-through in connection with that. So the use of a restaurant at the location is a use that's permitted by right. So that type of use is permitted in the general business district. The accessory use of the drive-through window requires coming to the board for a special use permit. And so that's what we're here tonight for, is to seek that special use permit. I believe it's very important to this operation, but there are a number of drive-through windows in the neighborhood and on the immediately adjacent property at the Taco Bell, there's a drive-through window. So I think, given that, we would believe that we would certainly meet all the requirements and standards associated with the request for a drive-through window, that there would not be a significant diminution in property values in the surrounding area of the district, that this would not create a nuisance in the neighborhood, that it's compatible with the comp plan. It doesn't injure the appropriate use of this property, and there aren't any conditions that would be associated with this that would be dangerous or harmful to the public. With me this evening, I have Molly Titus from Dupree Engineering, Paul Bannon, who is a traffic expert, and Kimberly Anderson from Plant City to answer any questions that the board might want. I think what I'd like to do is start with Molly, and she could go through the existing conditions and the proposed conditions. There aren't many changes here to the site plan. It's really just dealing with some striping associated with the improvements as they currently exist, and the addition of the drive-through window. If I could ask that Molly be called as the first witness.
Molly, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you
Yep.
swear Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Molly Titus, 2 Stafford Court, Cranston, Rhode Island.
Molly, could you please, maybe I just asked the chairman. Molly has previously testified before this board. I'd request that she be recognized as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Okay. I'm familiar with Dupree Engineering, so we'll accept Molly as an expert witness.
Molly, do you want to please explain your educational and professional background?
Yeah, I'm a professional engineer in the state of Rhode Island, and I've been practicing for 22 years.
And what types of projects have you, do you work on?
All sorts of civil engineering projects. We design, new residential developments, commercial redevelopments, much like this project. We've done extensive work in the town of Middletown.
So you're familiar with the property here at 619 West Main Road, correct?
Yes.
And can you explain to the board what you've done in connection with the preparation of the plans that are before the board this evening?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is Molly Titus from Dupree Engineering. We performed a class 4 survey of the property. The building and property lines were verified via research to confirm the zoning dimensional requirements, lot coverage, parking on the site. Plans were prepared showing the existing conditions of the site, the building, its relationship to West Main Road and Maplewood Road. We then took the proposed development for Plant City X and we added their order board and their drive-up window to the site plan. With these additions, we removed some of the existing parking and to provide the drive-up lane and required queue area. And we also created some parallel parking stalls and a bypass lane for this drive-through. Things to be noted on the site plan, there's an existing fence at the rear of the property and beyond, which is not along the property line. The fence is located about 5 feet inside the property line. And there's landscape buffering behind that fence between us and the adjacent neighbor.
Molly, if I could just interrupt you for just a moment.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if we received permission to share a screen or otherwise display the plans for anyone in the public that might be
As long as
interested?
my technical people can do it. Celeste, can we share that screen? They want to share their screen with us? We're working on it, Mr. Martland.
Molly Titus.
Molly Titus.
Yep, I'm ready when you are, so.
I think you should have it now.
I think I do. All right.
There it is.
All right.
Zoom comes through again.
Now the only thing I can't do is see anyone, but okay. So, I have no idea what just happened. Sorry, it's very awkward when you lose everyone. As I was saying, so on your screen is the site plan. I'm gonna go back up one sheet. Here's the existing parcel and building and parking. Obviously, the existing building and a majority of the parking is to remain. The proposed plan removes this parking on the south property line to create an additional queue area. Here's the proposed odor board, and then here's the pickup window. We've also removed this parking along the north property line to create room for a bypass lane. These reductions in parking do not reduce the parking on the site below the requirements of zoning. We used the worst case scenario. The existing building has about 81 seats, which is what we've provided for, requiring 27 spaces. The intention of the owner is to go down to about 45 seats within the building, but we just wanted to take the worst case, which is what the existing building has for capacity, and show that the parking still meets zoning. The fence that I was discussing is this fence along this rear property line here, and then that the landscaping is located behind this fence to the adjacent neighbor. For site plan items, that's all we have to discuss.
How many cars can you fit in the line, in the queue?
We've shown 9 to the pickup window.
Okay. Mr. Martland?
Yes. I don't know if you want to go back to the regular screen, or do you want to keep that up?
They're done. We'll go back, Mr. Martland.
Okay.
You want to stop sharing?
Yep, we're going to stop
Okay.
sharing.
So in addition to the small site changes to add for the drive-through, obviously the site itself is in need of an upgrade to the landscaping, and while that's shown on any of these plans, as it's not part of this application, the applicant wants to undertake a full upgrade for all of that landscaping that's there, and really try to beautify this space to make it as welcoming as possible, and recognizing that it is in a fairly prominent location with a significant amount of traffic. But I've been over there a couple of times, and you could tell that it's been certainly let go over the last number of years. And so along that, the two street fronts, Kim wants to certainly enhance that landscaping. With that being said, what I'd like to do is ask that Paul Bannon be sworn in as the next witness.
Mr. Bannon, are you there? Mr. Bannon? Mr.
He looks to be muted. I wonder if he can't unmute himself. He can't.
Mr. Bannon, can you unmute your microphone?
No, I think he needs permission.
We're working on it.
There we go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Bannon. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address for the record.
My name is Paul Bannon, Bannon. My address is 701 George Washington Highway in Lincoln, Rhode Island.
Mr. Bannon, you've appeared before this board on numerous occasions in your capacity as a traffic witness, a traffic expert. So we're going to accept you in that capacity this evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Martland?
Yes, Mr. Bannon, can you please explain to the board what you did to study and assess the site and the the proposed drive-through window?
Sure. We were retained to conduct a study to determine that safe and adequate access can be provided to this property in new business. As part of that effort, we conducted a review of the site plans that were provided by Deprete Engineering, coordinate the site development relative to access, drive-through, et cetera. We conducted site visits at different times of the day, days of the week, to observe traffic operations. I've done many studies out here and I'm very familiar with this project area. We inventoried the project area for land use, existing roadway conditions. That would include the horizontal, vertical, and geometry of the roadway, site distances at the site driveway points of access. We reviewed record traffic data available from the Department of Transportation and multiple studies that have been done for the community and the island in whole as part of major transportation studies. He also requested and reviewed accident data from the Middletown Police Department to determine if there are any potential safety issues in the project area. And then to give you an idea what type of traffic would be generated by this restaurant use, we reviewed trip generation information available from the ITE trip generation manual, and also discussions with the owner about her operation and what she's expecting. And then we assess the safety and operations of that future condition at the site driveways.
And what conclusions did you come to with respect to the proposed drive-through?
Just briefly, following up on Molly's description of the site, there are 3 driveway locations to provide access to the property. The driveways on West Main, one is an entrance, which is to the south, and the other is an exit. And then there's a full access driveway on Maplewood. In this area, West Main is about 50 feet wide, 30-mile-per-hour roadway. The traffic signals to either side that create gaps in traffic. The review of the information that we obtained found that there was no history of accidents at these locations. Is there adequate site distance to both the north and the south, because the roadway geometry is straight and essentially flat. Looking at the site, the main parking field to the business is on the south side of the building. And as Molly described, the drive-through lane will circulate behind the building to the drive-up window on the north side. Going over the business typically operates in what is being requested from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. A majority of the business associated with this restaurant type occurs during the midday period, 12 to 2, and in the early evening hours between 5 and 7, where we would expect roughly 30 to 40 customers in an hour, either walk-in, curbside pickup, which is become more common and more available to customers that don't want to come into the building, and then the drive-through. So we feel that the site, as Molly indicated, we're only looking at 30 to 40 seats, and feel that this is a perfect location for this type of business. It's a nice building. It's set up, ready to go. Going to make some major enhancements landscape-wise, clean up the vegetation in front, which we've identified as overgrown and blocking sight lines. So all that will be substantially upgraded and cosmetic improvements made to the building. So the drive-through can be added and we can service our customers. So based upon the study that we've done, looked at, we anticipate, based on the traffic to be generated and combined with the existing driveway conditions, that safe and adequate access can be provided to the new business.
So from your perspective, there won't be any hazardous conditions or conditions inimical to the public health, safety, or welfare as a result of adding a drive-through to this restaurant?
Now that will be accommodated on site in a safe manner.
And based on the business plan of the applicant, the anticipated number of patrons, you don't believe that there would be an issue with the stacking of vehicles that would create any traffic congestion?
Now, as Molly indicated, we have at least 9 spaces available in the drive-through lane, which is more than adequate and satisfactory to Department of Transportation standards for drive-throughs on state highways.
Well, maybe I should ask you this. What if, it happened that there was more patrons than we would anticipate? Is there any provision to deal with, an excess number of folks pulling into the drive-through?
Yes, and the drive-through in today's environment, there's that uncertainty on convenience and acceptance of in restaurant dining. So Kim has looked at how the business would be operating, and she's committed to providing extra staff as needed. If someone were during a lunch period that they did have a rush and it did extend beyond the drive-through lane, she would have staff out there taking orders, having them park in a parking space and do a curbside pickup type, so they wouldn't have to wait in line. So that can easily be managed in that using that method.
And I believe you already testified to this, but you don't see any issues relative to, the change in level of service by going from a restaurant use, which is permitted by right, to adding a drive-through window. Is that correct?
Now, the amount of traffic, the customers are the customers, and whether they use the drive-through or park or just pick up their items, it would not alter that.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions for Mr. Bannon.
Does anyone on the board have any questions for Mr. Bannon?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Heaney.
Mr. Bannon, you mentioned that in terms of the landscaping, they were going to make improvements. Does that have to do with actually an increase of the space that's going to be landscaped, or just making improvements in the current areas that are greenway, if you will? You're just going to improve the existing greenway that's there.
I believe there were well-maintained landscaped areas. Those will be upgraded. There's a lot of mulch and whatever. Kim may be able to let you know. I don't know if she plans on putting tables out in the large concrete area in front of the building as an amenity. But she plans, there will be no removal of pavement, if that's what you're saying. But all the landscaping, which fully surrounds the property along all the property lines, will be upgraded and improved.
Yeah.
Relative, because they're cosmetic things she's doing to the building. She has an image that she wants to present, and it will be a very good looking site, both visually for the building and the landscape element, which will be very inviting.
Yeah, so you addressed the following question. Was there going to be a reduction in the number of parking spaces available? but it's not actually going to reduce the amount of asphalt that's there. But that's where I was going.
That, the spaces we're losing will be taken up by the drive-through lane in the back corner.
Good, thank you.
And Mr. Martland, they're going to maintain the buffer on the east side behind the fence?
Yes, that's correct. In connection with a prior application, when the Papagenos originally was permitted, there was an agreement made with the abutter to the east that rather than the fence being put on the property line, it would be offset and put 5 feet into the property with the landscaping on the east side of that fence. And that's what the neighbor had wanted. And so that would continue to be maintained in that fashion. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Which I also think helps to better attenuate the noise generated from the use.
Attorney Martland.
I also have.
Oh, you have a question for Mr. Souza, Mr. Martland?
Okay.
Just kind of want to ask this question the right way, and I'm not sure if it's a question for Molly from Dupree or Paul, the traffic expert. I would assume if this was a ground-up project that was just getting started, would there be state oversight to make sure the drive-through is safe? And I'm just wondering what the difference is between a fresh project from ground up and something like this that's a retrofit window. Are there any state organizations involved that have put a safety stamp on this? I heard Paul say that the Department of Transportation standards were followed, but let's say there's a bad accident in front of the place and they determine that the drive-through is what caused it for whatever reason. Who ultimately gets looked at for the approval of this? And what's the process between something like this and something that starts from the dirt up?
Well, to obtain a state permit, that's would be called a physical alteration permit. That allows you to make alterations within the state highway, i.e. putting in a new driveway. In this instant, then there's another factor which they would potentially consider on new uses or reuses of existing buildings or businesses or plazas, if it's what they call a change in use. This kind of falls in that gray area. It's a restaurant building that can be occupied by a new business, new restaurant business. So there really is no change of use. There's a change in business. And, you know, if we were deviating from any standards, we would have to go to the DOT. In this instance, we meet all their standards, and the drive-through wouldn't cause an accident on 114. It's an internal condition. So in respect to obtaining a state permit, we're not altering the state highway and we're not changing the use of the property as it was approved, other than putting in the drive-through. And if you look at the the adjacent businesses, there are multiple drive-throughs of similar configuration along this section of 140.
And Mr. Bannon, I think I heard you testify that the inclusion of a drive-through doesn't necessarily increase the traffic. Is that correct?
Correct. It's the type of accommodation that it would offer. If a pharmacy has a drive-through, you're going to go to the pharmacy, whether you walk in the building or you go to the drive-through. Your destination was there, and how you get your medication or your lunch. It just varies on your choice. So we're providing choice of parking, walking in, parking for curbside pickup, where we come out and give you your order, or the drive-through. So
right. So you're not intensifying the use?
No, that is
thank you.
Our opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I also have Kim Anderson with us this evening, who might be able to explain her current operations and what she proposes for the restaurant here.
Miss Anderson, are you there?
I am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony this evening will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Sure. I'm Kim Anderson, and I live at 170 Adams Point Road in Barrington, Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Kim, could you explain your current operations at Plant City in Providence to the board and explain the concept behind your restaurant?
Sure. So my family and I have been investors against climate crisis for about 5 or 6 years. And we realized that the fastest way to reduce climate crisis was to support plant-based food companies. So we've been investing in those. And then we realized that if we could help move millions of American families away from animal agriculture to plant-based agriculture, according to the World Bank and their environmental consultants, animal agriculture contributes 51% of global greenhouse gases. So I'm trying to show the world that we can eat sustainably and compassionately, and that it can be beautiful, it can be delicious, and it can be convenient. So this is an amazing location, and it's an honor to be before you currently, because I think it's one of the finest locations in the state to do this. I have many customers already that are coming to me from Portsmouth and Middletown and Newport, Jamestown, and regular customers that are absolutely thrilled that we're going to be hopefully in their area. And so I created Plant City. I opened June of last year. We have 135 employees, and it's an incredibly successful business. Just voted by Rhode Island Monthly and Providence Journal as the best Reader's Choice selections for new restaurants in Rhode Island. Obviously, this is going to be a much more scaled down version. And as David inferred, for us to be continuing operations will be very challenging this winter. Customers are very reticent, many, to go indoors. So I do need to offer a way to get our product to them from out of doors if they were to choose that method. And so this will be, I'm hopeful, the first of many Plant City X's, and the template for success of building others and sharing really good plant-based foods with the rest of Rhode Island. And I do want to say, if I could add, thank you. We're known for being outstanding neighbors in Providence. We took an old building that had been empty for 2 years, very similar situation, that was a blight on the neighborhood actually, and turned it into something really special. And the neighbors really enjoy coming to visit us. We have a lot of landscaping. We have outdoor tables with some umbrellas, and it's quite beautiful to drive by and see it. It is not the blight that it used to be. My partner is Matthew Kenny. He's the top plant-based chef in the world out of LA. And we have an aesthetic and a brand that matters very much to our look. And so I know for certain that it would be a significant upgrade from anything that was there or anything that is there currently. And it would be actually quite interesting for us to be in between a Taco Bell and a Burger King that also have drive-thrus.
And what are the hours of operation that are being proposed?
7 to 11, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what type of landscape upgrades were you looking at for this site?
You know, I would obviously have my landscape team come in and do something similar to what we did in Providence, which is, you know, you don't want to block anything, but you just want to enhance it. A lot of green, round the year green, because I think it's an important look, as well as, yeah, I think it's really important that we're Plant City. We need plants.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't have any further questions for Kim.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, let me see if anyone on the Zoom call would like to speak either for or against the project. Is there anyone out there in Zoom land that would like to speak for or against the project? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion made by Eric Curtin. Second by Thomas Silvera. Discussion?
I'm absolutely going to vote in favor. The amount of drive-throughs that are in the area already,
I can't hear, I'm so sorry.
parking, what's that? Can you hear me now? Okay. What I said is I'm absolutely going to vote in favor. I am foremost grateful that a company wants to invest in West Main Road. West Main Road has more and more vacancies on a regular basis, and we should do what we can help to do what we can do, as long as it doesn't gonna make any kind of safety issues whatsoever. So again, I'm grateful that they're willing to invest, and I'm definitely gonna vote in favor.
Thank you.
I'm also going to vote in favor. I'm very in favor of their plan for the redevelop the commercial property that's already there. You can see that in terms of the care that they're taking, they're using the footprint that exists and is actually improving the surrounding areas as far as the landscaping is concerned. I think in terms of the design for the landscaping is going to be benefit to the abutting neighbor on the east. And ultimately, I think, as Eric just said, that it's going to make use of commercial property along a highly commercialized strip in our town that's currently vacant and definitely in need of a business like this. So I'm definitely going to support it also.
I'm also going to support the thing for the reasons that have been stated.
I too am going to support it. My concern was the traffic that would have been generated from another drive-through, but as the traffic expert, Mr. Bannon, testified, it's not going to be more intensive. I'm very familiar with the parent company, and the fact that they want to come to Middletown and invest really shines a bright light on that section of West Main Road. And, my wife was just saying, hey, there's no plant-based food on the island other than the market and a couple of small places like that. So I too am going to support it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Welcome to Middletown.
Thank you very much.
Petition of James and Sandra Serpa, owners, for a special use permit from section 602 and 902 to allow the expansion of the existing two-family dwelling by allowing the construction of a 20-foot by 16-foot roof over the existing patio. Real estate is located at 118, I say again, 18 and 20 Orchard Avenue, and further identified as Lot 310 on Tax Assessor's Plat 115 Southeast.
Mr. and Mrs. Serpa, are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm here.
Sandra, can you
Yes.
raise your right hand, please?
Yes,
Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Sandra Serpa, 20 Orchard Ave, Middletown, Rhode Island.
Can you tell us a little bit about your project, Mrs. Serpa?
I have a patio out in my backyard, outside my steps, and I would like to just put a roof over it to protect myself from the sun due to medical conditions.
Okay. And it's currently your house is what we consider a non-conforming use because there's two lots two houses on a single lot. And that's why you're here to get a special use permit. You're not asking for any variances other than the special use permit, correct?
Correct.
Does anyone have any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, I'm going to see if anyone on the call would like to speak either for or against the petition. Is there anyone that would like to speak either for or against the petition at 1820 Orchard Avenue? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to accept the petition as presented? Motion made by Tom Silvera,
I'll second.
second by Eric Curtin. Discussion?
I'm going to vote in favor. I believe it meets the criteria for the special use permit. I don't believe it'll have any detriment value to the surrounding area or any of the other conditions. I'm going to vote in favor of it. I'll repeat it again. I'm going to vote in favor of it. I believe that it meets the relief for the special use requirements.
I too am going to support it. I think one of the election season, everyone's talking about how often special use permits get issued. In this case, a special use is only required because of the non-conforming aspect of the current property. The actual building itself is not going to present any variances that are required. Again, as Mr. Silvera said, it meets all 5 of the criteria and so of the special use permit, so I'm going to vote for it. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. May I have a motion to dismiss the meeting?
One comment before we do that. Just for the record, the voting members for tonight were Chris Souza, Eric Curtin, Tom Silvera, James Miller, and Tom Heaney.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion now to dismiss the meeting? Oh, before we dismiss, I'd like to thank Mr. Kane, our building inspector, for as long as I've been involved with Middletown Zoning Board. He will be leaving us at the end of the month and filling his very big shoes, at least from an enforcement point of view. We're lucky to have Celeste, but I want to thank Mr. Kane for everything that he's done and taught me about the zoning code. So thank you, Mr. Kane. I know you're not watching this, but thanks. Can I have that motion now to dismiss?
Motion to dismiss.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made in second. The meeting is adjourned.
7:39.
Thank you, Mr. Susan. You're a good man.